Welcome to World Information HD, the place where history, mystery, and money collide. Today, we're diving deep into 1-cent wonders, the top 5 rare Lincoln wheat pennies that could be worth millions. You might think a penny is worthless, but some of these humble coins were struck under extraordinary circumstances, wartime errors, ultra-low mintages, and minting surprises, making them the holy grail of penny collectors. From the fabled 1943 bronze Lincoln cent, made during World War II, to first-year gems like the 1909 SVDB, we'll uncover the stories and dollar signs behind these tiny treasures. So check your jars, inspect your change. You might just be sitting on a fortune. Let's get started. Today's video, we are taking a deep dive into one of the most commonly seen yet surprisingly valuable coins in American history. A coin that millions of Americans have held in their hands without realizing that some rare examples are worth life-changing money. We are talking about the 1941 no-mint Mark Lincoln wheat penny, a simple 1-cent coin that has become a treasure in the eyes of collectors, historians, and investors alike. Many people think old pennies are worthless, but the truth is far more exciting. Some of these coins have sold at auctions for incredible amounts, and today we will explore why collectors are willing to pay serious money for a tiny copper coin minted over 80 years ago. Before diving into specific values and what makes certain 1941 pennies worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars, let's take a moment to understand the world in which this coin was born. The year is 1941. The United States is still recovering from the hardship of the Great Depression. The world is on edge as war spreads across Europe, and the U.S. is only months away from entering World War II after the attack on Pearl Harbor. People are struggling financially, rationing food, saving metal, and holding on to every cent. At this time, having $1 was meaningful, and every coin mattered. In this era of uncertainty, the U.S. Mint continued producing the Lincoln wheat penny, a coin already beloved by the public. Designed by Victor David Brenner and first minted in 1909 to commemorate the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln, the wheat penny displayed more than monetary value. It represented honesty, hard work, and the enduring spirit of the American nation. The front of the coin carried the now iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln, looking forward with determination, while the reverse proudly displayed 2 wheat stalks symbolizing prosperity and growth. This design would remain until 1958, making these coins both historically and visually unforgettable. Now, when we talk about the 1941 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny, we are specifically referring to coins produced at the Philadelphia Mint. Unlike coins from Denver or San Francisco, pennies made in Philadelphia did not carry a mint mark. Over 887 million of these were struck in 1941, meaning they were very common in circulation. Millions of children received them in pocket change, soldiers carried them into war, and families saved them in jars. The large number minted often makes people wonder, why would a coin minted in such large quantity be worth significant money today? The answer lies in rarity of condition, special varieties, minting errors, historical interest, and the irresistible demand of collectors who want the finest examples available. You see, while hundreds of millions of 1941 pennies were minted, the vast majority circulated heavily for decades. They got scratched, dented, worn smooth, cleaned in the wrong way, and damaged over time. Only a very small percentage have survived in exceptionally high-grade condition, and it is those rare specimens that command premium prices at auctions. To understand why condition matters, we need to explore the grading system used in numismatics. Coins are evaluated based on their state of preservation, ranging from poor condition, meaning heavily worn and barely identifiable, all the way up to mint state, meaning a coin looks just as it did the day it left the mint. Grades are assigned using a numeric scale from 1 to 70, where 70 represents a perfect, flawless coin with no marks, scratches, or signs of wear. With the 1941 penny, most examples found today are between very good and fine condition, meaning they show noticeable wear from circulation. These common grades usually sell for small amounts, perhaps a few cents or $1 or $2 depending on appearance. However, when a 1941 penny is found in mint state condition, especially MS65 and above, things change dramatically. A coin like that has brilliant luster, sharp detail, and no evidence of time spent exchanging hands in everyday pockets. And because so few exist in such pristine condition, collectors are willing to pay substantial amounts to secure them. Some 1941 pennies also carry additional excitement in the form of mint errors. During the rush of wartime production, striking mistakes were not uncommon. A double die obverse is one of the most famous errors. This happens when the coin dies are misaligned, causing letters and numbers to appear doubled on the surface. In 1941, a noticeable double die on the obverse can make a penny much more desirable and far more valuable. Collectors love these error coins because they are rare, dramatic, and easily visible without special equipment. Another point of collector interest is original color. When a 1941 penny is first minted, it has a bright red copper shine. Over time, copper naturally darkens, turning brown from oxidation. Collectors grade Lincoln cents not only by wear but also by remaining color. A coin labeled RD means full original red, RB means red-brown, and BN means mostly brown. Even two coins with the same grade number can have dramatically different values if one still has its brilliant red mint color. A 1941 penny that is MS67RD is incredibly rare and stunning to look at, often commanding impressive prices. What makes the 1941 Lincoln wheat penny even more fascinating for collectors is that it represents the last period before the dramatic shift in penny composition. In 1943, because copper was needed for war production, the U.S. Mint produced pennies in steel coated with zinc. These famous steel cents became widely recognized and are still collected today. That means the 1941 and 1942 copper pennies are the final traditional issues before wartime change. Historical context like this increases interest and demand, especially for high-grade copper survivors. Let's picture the journey of one exceptional 1941 penny. Minted in Philadelphia, freshly struck, it gleams with a fiery copper shine. Instead of entering circulation, it is saved by a careful collector, perhaps a child who received it as a gift or someone who intentionally set aside new coins. It rests untouched in an envelope or album for decades. Over 80 years later, that carefully preserved coin is examined, graded professionally, and recognized as one of the finest known examples. At auction, collectors see it as not just a coin but a piece of history preserved in perfect form. Competitive bidding begins, prices climb higher, and the humble penny becomes a star in the numismatic world. Stories like this have repeated many times, contributing to the legend of the 1941 penny. For those who own a 1941 penny today, it is important to know what to look for when evaluating value. Start by examining the surface. Does the coin maintain sharp detail in Lincoln's hair, beard, and coat? Is the lettering crisp and defined? Does the reverse show clean wheat lines and strong texture? Is the coin free of deep scratches, dings, or corrosion? Next comes luster. A valuable 1941 penny will shine brightly when tilted under light, showing original mint brilliance. Then comes color. Coins that retain red mint color command the highest values. And finally, consider whether the coin has any visible errors or doubling. Another important detail for collectors is never to clean old coins. Many people see a tarnished penny and think they should polish it to make it look new. But cleaning actually destroys original surfaces and drastically lowers value. Professional collectors and grading companies always prefer coins to remain untouched, even if they show natural aging. The 1941 Lincoln wheat penny is more than an old coin. It is a witness to American history, a survivor of wartime turmoil, and a collectible that continues to surprise people with its hidden value. Every time a rare high-grade example crosses the auction block, it reminds the world that treasures can still be found in ordinary places. A simple jar of old pocket change, a forgotten drawer, or an inherited collection may hold one of these gems waiting to be discovered. Collectors often describe the hobby of coin collecting as a journey of patience and passion. It teaches history, attention to detail, and appreciation for small things that others overlook. And the 1941 penny is a perfect example of how something small and common can become a prized artifact when preserved with care. Today we dive into another remarkable treasure hidden in pocket change, coin jars, old family collections, and forgotten drawers across the United States. The humble Lincoln wheat penny has always held a special place in American numismatics, but some dates rise above the rest, not for being rare at a glance, but because of the stories they carry, the history they survived, and the extraordinary value collectors are willing to pay for the finest examples. Our focus today is the 1942 no-mint mark Lincoln wheat penny, a coin minted during one of the most turbulent times in world history. When America was fully engaged in World War II, factories were working at maximum capacity, and even small changes in coin metals were being investigated to support wartime needs. This penny is a symbol of an era defined by ration books, war bonds, military drafts, and national sacrifice. Yet, millions of these pennies were used and spent without a second thought, paying for candy bars, newspapers, bus fares, school lunches, and everyday life during a time when American families waited anxiously for letters from overseas. The 1942 Lincoln penny captures this piece of history in a small, shining copper circle that today represents both nostalgia and treasure. To understand what makes the 1942 penny fascinating, we must begin with the man on the obverse, President Abraham Lincoln. His portrait first appeared on the Lincoln cent in 1909 for the centennial of his birth. Until then, U.S. coin designs had followed a tradition of using depictions of liberty or symbolic figures rather than real historical individuals. Lincoln changed that tradition forever, and since then, his image has become the longest-running portrait on any circulating American coin. By 1942, the wheat penny had been in circulation for 33 years. Its famous wheat ears on the reverse were designed by Victor David Brenner, meant to symbolize national prosperity. But the 1942 coins represent the last stage before major change. The pressures of World War II led the U.S. Mint to conserve copper for ammunition, shell casings, and other military needs. This is why in 1943 the United States temporarily switched to zinc-coated steel cents. But in 1942, the Lincoln penny was still made from a bronze alloy of 95% copper, 5% tin and zinc. Every 1942 cent therefore stands as one of the last wartime copper issues before the temporary changeover to steel. Even though the Philadelphia Mint struck hundreds of millions of cents that year, most entered circulation and survived decades of wear and tear. Collectors today know that high-grade examples are challenging to find because few people saved them at the time. The nation was at war, and saving shiny new coins was not a priority. Instead, people spent everything they had to keep life moving during a period of rationing and economic strain. A brilliant, uncirculated 1942 cent that survived untouched for more than 80 years is therefore special on its own. But historical setting alone does not make them valuable. The condition of the coin is everything. A circulated coin from 1942, especially one with scratches, discoloration, or heavy wear, will typically be worth only a few cents. But when a 1942 Lincoln penny appears in pristine condition, with fully visible detail, clean fields, and its original luster shining as if it had just left the mint, collectors take notice. Just imagine holding such a coin in your hand, a tiny piece of metal that survived 8 decades without entering circulation, without bouncing through cash registers, jacket pockets, pants cuffs, desk drawers, lunch boxes, or piggy banks. For that reason, extremely high-grade examples are extremely rare, and at professional auctions, bidding can rise to unforgettable levels. So what does a collector look for in a premium 1942 no-mint mark Lincoln wheat penny? First, sharpness of strike. The finer details like Lincoln's hair, eyebrow, cheek contour, and the folds of his coat are often weak on heavily circulated coins. But a high-end example will show crisp, well-defined edges and full details. Second, luster. This is the mint-produced surface shine that reflects light and flowing waves when tilted. Only coins that have never been cleaned, polished, or handled harshly retain that brilliance. Once a coin is cleaned, no matter how bright it looks afterward, collectors will not pay top dollar for it. Third, color. Grading services categorize copper cents into 3 main color designations: brown, and red. A coin that is fully original red from 1942 is stunning. Very few have survived untouched, and these are the ones that command extraordinary value. Fourth, eye appeal. A coin may technically grade high, but if it has unattractive spots or streaks, collectors may not compete intensely for it. A coin that is clean, even-toned, perfectly centered, and bright commands attention. Fifth, certification. Coins professionally graded by PCGS or NGC bring tremendous confidence into the marketplace. Buyers know what they are paying for, and high grades from either service can turn a simple penny into a world-class numismatic treasure. Stories from auction houses illustrate the dramatic difference in value between average examples and museum-quality pieces. Imagine two people each holding the same 1942 wheat penny, one pocket-worn and worth only a few cents, and the other untouched, glowing, and graded at the top of the scale. They are the same coin, same year, same design, and from the same mint. But the gulf in value between them is enormous, and that is what makes coin collecting so exciting. Hidden rarity is everywhere, especially in older cents that millions of Americans unknowingly spent again, saved in coffee cans, or passed down in loose pocket change. Collectors also appreciate the 1942 Lincoln penny because of its place in the wartime timeline. World War II was an era when the U.S. Mint made experimental test strikes in preparation for metal changes. A few 1942 cents with alternate metal compositions were created secretly for internal testing. These include cents made from glass, fiber composites, Bakelite-type plastics, and zinc-coated steel. Most of those experimental pieces never left the mint and are now in museums. Still, the 1942 series holds the status of being the last widely circulating copper issue before the radical transformation to the famous 1943 steel cent. For collectors of wartime numismatic history, that adds another dimension of desirability. The typical 1942 penny spent its life doing everyday jobs, paying for a Hershey bar, a bus transfer, a soldier's newspaper, a school lunch ticket, or a grocery purchase. When a collector today holds a well-preserved example, they often imagine the moment it was struck, workers at the Philadelphia Mint operating around the clock as war production fluctuated, giant presses stamping thousands of coins per hour, bins filled with fresh pennies destined for circulation across the country. Some coins went straight into bank vaults and bags, remaining untouched until discovered decades later by collectors. Those are the pieces that today reach eye-opening values. Finding a 1942 penny today can be thrilling, but the odds of stumbling upon a flawless mint-state example in change are extremely low. Most extraordinary specimens come from original rolls, decades-old collections, or estate finds where coins were sealed away in envelopes, books, or mint boxes since the 1940s. It makes you think how many hidden treasures might still be sitting in old storage chests, dresser drawers, family trunks, or inherited boxes that nobody has looked through in generations. Many such collections get passed down without anyone realizing that a small 1-cent piece might be worth far more than every other coin in the box combined. Not every coin will bring a fortune, but the excitement of checking, hoping, and discovering makes coin collecting one of the most rewarding hobbies in the world. Every coin has a story, but some also have potential beyond imagination. The 1942 Lincoln wheat penny is one such example. It stands not only as a relic of American history, not only as a wartime currency artifact, but as a coin that proves condition, preservation, and collector demand can transform an ordinary copper cent into a valuable treasure. And so for collectors who dream of finding that perfect gem hiding in plain sight, this coin remains one of the most exciting pieces to search for. Because at a major auction, a 1942 no-mint mark Lincoln wheat penny in spectacular preserved condition once sold for $31,288. In the world of American coin collecting, one penny continues to fascinate collectors, historians, and numismatists alike. A humble copper coin minted during one of the most intense moments in modern world history. The 1944 no-mint mark Lincoln wheat cent may look ordinary to the untrained eye, but behind its small size lies a powerful story of wartime necessity, unusual minting circumstances, and surprising financial value that could leave someone holding a fortune in their pocket change. Today, we dive deep into the mysterious origins, fascinating production, rare variations, and current value of this wartime penny that so many collectors hunt for even today. The story begins in the midst of World War II. By 1943, the United States was fully committed to the war effort, its factories converting almost overnight from household goods to weapons, aircraft, and military supplies. Copper, one of the most widely used metals in ammunition manufacturing, became a critical material. Every ounce mattered. The government faced a challenge. The Lincoln cent, a coin minted every year since 1909, was made from copper. Something had to change. In early 1943, the U.S. Mint made a drastic decision. It removed copper from pennies entirely. Instead, 1943 pennies were minted using zinc-coated steel. The move was practical, saving tons of copper for ammunition production. However, the public did not like the new steel cents. They rusted easily, discolored quickly, and could even be mistaken for dimes. Complaints flooded in, and the mint realized the change couldn't be permanent. That meant that in 1944, the Lincoln wheat cent returned to copper. But this time, the copper used wasn't newly sourced. Instead, most 1944 pennies were made using recycled shell casings recovered from military training grounds. Imagine that, shells fired on American soil, collected, melted down, and turned back into money to keep the economy operating during war. Each 1944 penny carries a symbolic link to the wartime sacrifices of that generation. The Philadelphia Mint was responsible for producing millions of these coins, and unlike the Denver and San Francisco facilities, coins from Philadelphia had no mint mark. That is why the 1944 no mint mark Lincoln wheat penny is instantly recognizable. But common does not always mean ordinary. Even though millions were made, several key factors make certain examples extremely valuable. First, every coin leaves the mint with subtle differences. Slight variations in pressure, die condition, striking quality, and metal purity create countless micro-characteristics. Over time, collectors began to notice extraordinary examples, coins struck with exceptional sharpness, pennies surviving decades without scratches or exposure, and specimens with extremely high grades certified by leading grading authorities. The value of any wheat penny depends heavily on condition. Collectors use a scale from 1 to 70, known as the Sheldon grading scale, to determine its state. A grade of 1 refers to a coin barely recognizable, while a perfect 70 is practically untouched since the day it left the press. Most 1944 pennies in circulation show signs of age, smoothing on Lincoln's hair, fading wheat stalks, and surface discoloration. These coins are common and worth just a few cents over face value. However, once a specimen survives in extremely fine condition, sharp lines, full detail, and minimal blemishes, the value rises significantly. Collectors especially prize coins with strong strike definition, visible cheek and jaw contours on Lincoln's portrait, and crisp wheat kernels on the reverse. Such coins suggest little handling and immediate preservation after minting, a rare achievement for everyday currency. But the true outliers, those that never reached circulation, often remained in government storage, sat untouched in mint-sealed rolls, or were tucked away in private collections for generations. These coins, when professionally graded, can reach incredible price levels at auction. Beyond condition, the 1944 penny is also known for a few extremely rare variations. The U.S. Mint's rapid production during wartime led to some mistakes. Dies and metal planchets sometimes mixed from different years. The most famous error related to this series is the accidental minting of 1944 pennies on leftover steel planchets from 1943. These mistakes are incredibly rare, considered holy grails in the collection world. Although most surviving 1944 pennies were minted correctly in recycled copper, collectors still search every coin carefully, hoping for that once-in-a-lifetime discovery. A genuine 1944 steel penny has sold for over $100,000, showing the powerful market value surrounding wartime minting anomalies. Even standard copper 1944 pennies can become valuable under the right circumstances. Auction houses have seen bidding wars escalate to astonishing results when a high-grade specimen appears. The record prices typically come from coins certified by respected grading companies like PCGS or NGC. These institutions authenticate the coin, verify originality, and assign a grade based on surface condition, luster, strike quality, and visual appeal. A top-tier grade instantly transforms a penny from a coin into an investment. Collectors who discovered old rolls in dusty attics or inherited jars from family members have sometimes been shocked to learn their tiny copper coin was worth more than gold by weight. And that thrill, knowing a person might be holding a fortune without realizing it, is what makes wheat pennies so exciting to collectors of all ages. Beyond monetary value, the 1944 Lincoln wheat cent also represents a transitional moment in American history. Its production marks the return to copper after a dramatic wartime pause. It reminds us of a nation adapting under pressure, conserving what it could, and finding ways to sustain economic stability while fighting overseas. Every coin became a tiny historical document, minted in silence but speaking volumes about the era that produced it. Even the design of the penny connects past and present. Abraham Lincoln's portrait, first used in 1909, was selected for the cent to commemorate the 100th anniversary of his birth. It became the first U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure instead of symbolic imagery. The reverse featured two wheat stalks, representing prosperity and agricultural roots. For collectors, the wheat penny series is not only a monetary relic but also a deeply patriotic artifact tied to national identity. After 1958, the reverse design changed to the Lincoln Memorial, and later again to the Union Shield, making wheat pennies highly collectible as the last of their kind. Among them, the wartime years, 1943, 1944, and 1945, stand out for their unusual metal composition and short-term modifications. That is why collectors focus intensely on this era, examining pennies under magnifiers, weighing them, checking edges, and hunting for variations that could transform an old copper cent into a valuable find. Even today, people continue to search pocket change, bank rolls, estate collections, and coin jars, hoping to stumble upon the unexpected. Stories are common of individuals who unknowingly held a rare penny for decades before discovering its true worth through auction sales, coin shows, or professional grading services. These discoveries keep the hobby alive, proving that history is not just found in museums but sometimes in the palm of your hand. Also worth noting is how interest in wheat pennies continues to grow as younger generations become collectors. Social media, YouTube channels, and online auctions have reinvigorated the hobby. Coins that once passed quietly through grocery store counters now appear in high-definition online images, sold to a global audience of enthusiasts. And in that new world of digital collecting, the 1944 no-mint mark Lincoln wheat penny remains one of the most searched and studied. As with all collectible coins, potential sellers and buyers must be careful. The market includes replicas, altered coins, and pieces damaged over time. Professional authentication is always recommended before major sales. A genuine high-grade example is rare and deserves proper certification to protect its full value. For collectors, the 1944 penny represents more than money. It is a piece of history molded during one of the greatest conflicts of the 20th century. It tells a story of sacrifice, adaptation, and American resilience. And it proves that even the smallest coin can have the biggest story behind it. Now, after exploring its history, variations, rarity, and grading, we come to the exciting part, its highest value. Exceptional examples of the 1944 no-mint mark Lincoln wheat penny in extraordinary condition have sold for an impressive $43,646.